Welcome to the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast with host Jacqueline Burke. On today's special feature, we are talking about menopause with our special guest Keely Tyler. We know you will really enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the podcast, Keely. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. How are you
Oh,
doing?
thanks for being here. I'm great. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about menopause.
Yay.
Yay.
Everybody's favorite subject.
Um, so first, when did you start menopause for you? Like what age were you?
Um, yeah, so my situation is a bit unique in that I was got pregnant with my son when I was 33 and um about a year and a half after that started having all of these sort of crazy perimenopausal symptoms.
Yeah.
My period was super irregular and so I went to my doctor, and of course she's like, well, you're very young, like as if I didn't know that.
Yes.
Um, and we were at the time hoping to have another baby, and so there was all this wackiness going on, and ultimately ended up uh, being diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disorder. It's an autoimmune condition. And what can happen for some people is that it kicks you into premature ovarian failure, which is the
Oh,
absolute worst name for anything, which is
yeah.
what I told the gynecologist when he told me that. I said, that is an awful name. Why would you call it that? And he's like, yeah, I don't really know. We should rename that one too. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, basically it means everything went kaput, no
Yeah.
more eggs. Sorry, you're done now.
Yeah.
So my entry into menopause was fairly brief and violent, a lot
Oh,
like if someone had a hysterectomy or something
oh,
like
wow.
that. I didn't have these, I'm 51, so now all of my best friends have been dealing with perimenopause for a bunch of years. And I didn't really have that extended version. I had, maybe a year and a half or 2 years of just some pretty intense symptoms, and then I was done.
Yeah.
So, I haven't had a period or any kind of perimenopausal symptoms in 15 years now. So that was my experience with that. And now they call it postmenopausal.
Yeah.
Actual menopause from
Yeah.
a disc, like a definition, is like one day. The
Right.
day after the day, a year after you had your last period, menopause, and then you're postmenopausal.
Oh,
So I am postmenopausal, although, it still very much impacts my life in terms of like brain fog and
oh,
because I went you know, into menopause so early, I've had to take low dose hormones for
oh.
the past 15 years just because um, the lack of estrogen can create problems like osteoporosis and heart disease and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, that was my my
Introduction.
kick at the cat. Yeah, and now that I had very little sympathy when I was 35 and
Yeah.
dealing with all of this stuff from, my friends, and now that they're all dealing with it, they're like, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't more sympathetic." I'm like, yes, it's fine, I guess. How
Uh,
would you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, they say post-menopause, but you're still going through some of the symptoms of menopause. Like it's
Oh, of course. Yeah.
strange,
It,
you know,
yeah.
it just doesn't really like it's been consistent, it seems, for some women anyways.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's well defined, and I don't think I mean, maybe it's well documented, but it's certainly not well studied. Like
Right.
everybody's different, I think. Everybody
Yeah.
gets my one friend that's been dealing with it for the past 5 years, every time something weird happens, she basically has to look it up.
Yeah, right.
And, she gets super early morning like nausea, like as though
Oh, wow.
like as though she was pregnant, but she's obviously not. So,
Oh, wow.
um, And yeah, like why?
Yeah.
Hmm, nobody knows because they
Yeah.
don't study it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. I spoke to someone the other day and they said, she had started menopause in her 30s, but the doctor says, no, 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 it's not this. It's that. But then every year went by.
Right.
No, no. But meanwhile, it had been menopause.
Of course.
They
Yeah.
they gauge it on an age, it seems.
Yes, I was told recently that the official age at which you should be in menopause, according to doctors, is 53.
Oh,
So I have to take the low dose hormones for 2 more years before I'm, considered the right age to stop taking them.
that's
All
weird.
all right, 53 it is, sure.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I hate to tell this to you, but I'm 57 and I'm still dealing with.
I know, right? Like that's not a thing, guys.
Yeah.
It's just they have to put a label on it, I think. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, yeah.
So, how did you find going on the hormone therapy? Did that help you with any symptoms?
Um, yeah, so when I was first dealing with all that, they put me on, I guess what would be not a low dose, it'd be a higher dose.
Oh, okay.
And it did help. It's not they're not the most convenient things, like the estrogen is a gel and
Oh,
I did find that the progesterone, if I wasn't taking it, I was such a bitch.
oh,
Like, oh, holy crap. Yeah. So that one definitely helped with my irritability and rage.
yeah.
Um, the estrogen, I mean, presumably it was so chaotic that it was very hard to tell what was kind of
Yeah.
helping or harming. And then I guess once, it had been a year or such, they had to reevaluate. And I mean, I don't know what it's like where you are, but I've been through dozens of doctors in the last number of years. So one of them will prescribe something, and then the next one will be, well, like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
So at some
Yeah.
point, I switched to a low dose
Mm.
hormone, and it does not impact my symptoms in any way that I've found, but it does, kind of prevent osteoporosis, and which I ended up getting anyway. But heart disease and
Yeah.
don't have that one yet.
Yeah. And you're
Thank God.
not gonna
Knock
get
on
it.
wood. Yeah,
Yeah.
knock on wood. Um, so yeah, I did find it helped. I went down a rabbit hole looking for a more sort of natural, um, non-synthetic hormonal replacement, and it's just not really available here. So I couldn't say whether or not that was a thing that helped more or harmed kind of thing. It's a bit of a crapshoot, I think, because the way the medical system is set up is not designed to deal with, if you get a female doctor, she's presumably younger and hasn't had to, deal with any of the symptoms yet. If you get a male doctor, obviously they've never had to deal with it, so they just go by what's in the
Yeah.
book, and um, yeah, I would say it's just constantly having to advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
right? And trying everything under the sun that, you heard from it. It's like old wives' tales and something you saw on Facebook, and maybe there's a product, or, like when I was actually actively going through it, it was, um, I had insomnia for the first
Oh.
time in my life, which, like, sleeping is my superpower. That
Oh.
was not a thing I had ever experienced before, so I had zero idea how to deal with it. And then when I finally did get to sleep, like, horrendous night sweats, just
Oh.
waking up in a pool of your own kind of. And so I spent a freaking fortune on sheets that were supposed to, keep you cool, and
Yeah.
natural sleep aids, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, I tried it all. Sometimes it helped, sometimes it would help for a while and then stop helping, and then eventually, I mean, I basically just white knuckled it and
Yeah.
got through to the other side where the symptoms just weren't as, aggressive, I guess. Um, And, now I just kind of have whatever
Yeah.
brain fog
Oh,
constantly.
oh, absolutely.
Um, I don't know whether to blame that on menopause or um, just, the world.
Yeah.
All that.
Well, I saw on TikTok, it was hilarious. I have to share this with you that this woman, she just said, because it was about brain fog, and she says, it really isn't. It's just because you get to a point with menopause that you just don't care.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
don't care what anybody says to
100%.
you.
It's like I don't actually actively combat the brain fog anymore. I just
Yeah.
lean in,
Yeah.
right? I'm just like, this is just who I am now. Like
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
guess. Like could be the thyroid, could be that's
Yeah.
the other thing is with, menopause, if you have any other condition that impacts your hormones or your like your thyroid does. Um, or some mental health issues, of course, like it's just one big sloppy Venn diagram of all of the symptoms. And so and one of which is that you're tired a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
So who has the energy to hunt down a root cause? Or
Yeah.
nobody's got time for that. So,
No.
so I just lean in. i'm
Oh,
just i'm
yeah.
just i'm just kind of spacey now. I forget shit constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eh.
Yeah. It is what it is. You can't.
Yeah, like she said, I don't care.
Yeah.
Something will happen and it'll all work out. Like I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, you start not to care so much, and then you have no filter. So the two combined are just
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's how
that's
we,
how we get by.
middle-aged women, that's how they get their reputation.
Yeah,
It's like, but
absolutely.
there's a medical cause for
Yeah,
that.
right on. I'm all about
Yeah.
that. Um, so have you gone on any like supplements or anything for menopause? Like with the brain fog or with hot flashes or anything else?
Um, yeah, I mean, I haven't had hot flashes in however many years. So I think at the time I tried uh maybe it was black cohosh.
Oh, okay.
Um, did that work? I don't really remember.
Yeah.
It's 15 years ago and also brain
Yeah.
fog.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I am a student of herbalism, and I'm have a sort of ongoing interest in the the way we can work with plants to kind of I think we've been trained to look for like a cure, right? Like a fix, an immediate, like this is going to make this thing go back to the way it was. And I tend to approach things now more with a bit of a like, let's nudge this
Yeah.
thing, kind of back. And I think menopause in particular um, really needs that kind of approach because it's so fluid in terms of, when and where and the symptoms
Yeah.
and it can change daily or weekly or monthly. And so, um, I take adaptogens fairly frequently, herbs that sort of help you. They just support your system in what it needs, whether that's like, to deal with stressors, whether that's emotional stressors or physical stressors or whatever. So I quite regularly take holy basil for that. I've taken rhodiola, roseroot in the past, which really helped with some of the mental health symptoms that I
Okay.
got. I've dealt with anxiety. Like I am diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, but I suspect that it is strongly linked to the thyroid and the
Yeah.
menopause, right? And whatever the world.
Yeah.
Everybody has a good reason to have anxiety lately.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but the adaptogens help with that as well. And some herbs like lemon balm or passion flower, like all of those are really good for just kind of like taking your nervous system down a notch. So yes, I've tried them all. I've tried all the B vitamins. I've tried, everything. Magnesium is a big one
Oh,
because,
yeah.
um, especially for sleep, but most people, 75% of people are deficient in magnesium, like 100% of the time, right? It's just
Yeah.
not a thing that shows up in our diet very often.
Yeah.
So that I take that one fairly regularly. I did take melatonin when I was
Okay.
having sleep
Yes.
issues. And I mean, it helps. I find that it makes me groggy in the morning, groggier.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so I try to, unless if I'll take it sometimes still if I really need to get a good night's sleep and I am anxious about something or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Okay.
yeah, I think it's really I mean, it gets tough because like I said, one of the symptoms is being tired, and
Yeah.
so it can be really overwhelming to try to like track down what the
Yeah.
best supplement is because there isn't one that's going to work for everybody,
No.
right? Like that's the things that they serve you up on Facebook that
Yeah.
claim to eliminate all of your menopause symptoms. Like that's just that's not a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've tried them all, but
Yeah.
I think that people have to try them for themselves,
Yeah.
or I mean, ideally you work with a naturopath or an herbalist that um, can make recommendations and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and tweak that as you go because it's changes so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you taken collagen?
Yeah. I take collagen every day,
Okay.
actually.
You find that
I find
helps?
um I find that it helps me with I started taking it not so much for menopause, but for joint pain
Yeah.
because um my thyroid is an autoimmune. I get a lot of inflammation sometimes, and
Right.
so yeah, I just it makes me feel better in a number of ways.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I didn't take it specifically or I don't take it specifically for menopause, but
Yeah.
it just kind of helps to make your body
Yeah.
like you more, I guess.
Yeah. Like, yeah, well, probably about let's say 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, I started taking it.
Yep.
And I'm taking it later on in life. However, like it has helped me with a lot of joint issues and
Mm-hmm.
deterioration that I have, or
Yeah.
it just seems to be like well, it's almost like a happy pill, but it doesn't affect me in a like a happy attitude or anything. It just makes my
Right.
body feel happy.
Right.
You
Yes.
know? Like
Yeah.
even my skin, like I find it's not so dry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, the
it's,
itchiness. Oh my
yeah, the
God.
itchiness
Who knew
and
that was a symptom?
oh,
It's like, what?
and the hot flashes, like it would bring prickles to my skin
Oh,
and it
okay. Yeah.
literally make my teeth feel like they're floating. That was what a major hot flash when I'd get those.
Right.
My husband said only he brings those on by me looking at them because he's the root cause. But anyways,
Yeah. This is all your fault.
he owns that very proudly. Um, but yeah, no, it's really kind of helped, and my teeth are feeling a lot better too.
Right.
I don't know,
Interesting.
just they're feeling a lot stronger. So yeah, that's been very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I wasn't taking it when I was having hot flashes. I started taking it later when I started getting a lot of inflammation and joint pain. But yeah,
yeah,
I do find it, I wish it wasn't so expensive, but
yeah,
I do find it like helpful just as I mean, like one of those things, like I said, that just kind of like nudges you back
yeah,
towards, optimized
yeah,
existence, I guess. It's like, okay, I do feel like this body can carry me through the day
yeah,
now. Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, man, oh man. Um, so did you have any like weight issues going through menopause?
Um, yeah, again, hard to say because I went into menopause so quickly after having a baby.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I've sort of struggled with weight back and forth.
Or like water retention.
Um, yeah, like definitely I would say I, after I finally like got through that year and a half or whatever of symptoms, like my set point was probably 10 or 15 pounds more than
Okay.
it had been before. Um, but I've also, not somewhat recently, but a couple of years ago, went on medication for my anxiety, and that has caused weight gain too.
Oh,
And I think partly because of the menopause, like I have absolutely zero way of losing it. Like
yeah,
I'm just not even trying at this
yeah,
point because I don't even eat any much that much. I'm super active.
yeah,
I'm not I've removed a lot of the stressors in my life, so it's not a cortisol problem. It's just, I guess this is just who I am now, but
yeah,
like that's where that not caring part comes in.
yeah. You know,
So
yeah.
yeah, it does make it very hard to lose it once you've gained
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So,
As I find a lot of women, like when we were going through menopause too, that's when the pandemic kicked in, and then
oh yeah,
became less active. So that just, especially when you're in it for so long up to that point. And
right. It's
yeah,
very difficult to tell like what, you know, I mean, the last weight I gained, it's very clear that those meds were responsible, right?
yeah,
But if I went off of them, I'm not sure I could lose it
yeah,
necessarily. Because it's just so different unless you're like super dedicated and,
right.
but yeah, and it different things work for different people, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not even bothered
no,
anymore. I'm just
yeah,
like, meh,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. And I find at this point in my life, I've finally gotten to a point where I actually love myself regardless of what size I am, because again, you have the strong attitude of, yeah,
Right.
it doesn't, this is who I am.
Well, and I just think once you get to a point of a certain amount of lived experience, like
Mm,
things like that just don't matter as much. It
right.
doesn't matter as much as, the kid I'm still raising. It doesn't matter as much as the business I'm building. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter as much as, that food that tastes good
Yeah.
because I cooked it and it came out of my garden. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm
I,
sure it still matters a lot for some people, but I'm not one of them.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Well,
I
that's
have
good.
zero tips to give for losing weight during
Yeah.
menopause.
No, it's
But
just, I guess it's just something that women have to accept. That's part of it for some people, for some women out there. And, it's just, it makes you look at yourself and to love yourself differently.
absolutely. Yeah. Like,
Identity
I
is
mean,
out the door.
do I wish I could drop 30 pounds so that, my joints don't hurt as much and I'm not carrying around as much? Sure. But I'm not going to kill myself to do it.
Yeah.
And, like I said, yeah, there's just so
Yeah.
many more important things.
Absolutely.
So
That's
for
important.
me,
Yeah,
not for
absolutely.
everybody.
It's important for women to understand that it's good to feel. I mean, if you are gaining weight due to menopause or whatever, that's okay. Like it's
Yeah,
part of the journey, and that may be part of your journey that's happens, and it's okay to accept, you know.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think partly, you know, we get to this point where, um, and anyway, I had a conversation with my mother a couple years ago, probably, and she's 78 or 79 now. And she said, like, I just feel invisible. Like I'm essentially, you know, and at the time I remember thinking, that sounds great.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I am all for taking up space if it's necessary, but I don't actually want to have to feel like I have to put myself together or be a certain size or look a certain way to please other people's gaze. Do you
yeah,
know whether those are, I mean, primarily men, but um like I don't, it just isn't a thing that, you get to a point where you spent the first 40 years being socialized that your worth is in your body, right? Your worth is in your ability to look good, your ability to bear children, and then now you can't do any of those things anymore necessarily. Like, sure, you can still look good, but you're not going to
Yeah.
stack up against the 20-year-old, right?
Right.
And there's a freedom in that because you can just be like, that. I mean, maybe that's why we lose our filter because we're like, fuck it. My value now is in what I know and what I
Yeah.
can say and what, I can provide and what I can like,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
the person I am versus that what person I look like. So yeah, the ability to disappear sounds great.
Yeah.
Like be my superpower. Just like,
Liberating.
yeah, liberating. Exactly. Do
Yeah.
whatever you want because nobody's looking.
Yeah.
Not that anybody was looking in the first place, right? Like I
Yeah.
think people don't they ascribe way more attention to other people than they're actually getting. But
Yeah.
you don't learn that until you're past the point where it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So on every episode, we are incorporating a bit of gratitude.
right on.
Yeah.
Big fan.
So, yeah. So I'm going to ask you just a couple questions on gratitude.
Sure.
So what is one thing you're truly grateful for right now?
I mean, I'm grateful for a lot of things. I'm grateful for, you know, my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for this cute little house I live in with my chaotic yard. I'm grateful that it's spring and I can finally put stuff in the garden and I'm not, freezing my ass off every time I leave the house. I'm grateful that I don't that I guess I am who I am. And yeah, I don't know. I'm very grateful that I was prompted a couple of years ago to try to, start an art business instead of just doing what I was doing, which wasn't bringing me any joy. So yeah, I'm grateful for
A lot.
a lot. Yeah,
A
I've
lot of
got a
growth.
lot. I feel very, um, like my life is very abundant. I mean, I'm not rich and, but I feel like there's a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, a lot of life, a lot of, um, I'm lucky. I feel like a very lucky person. But
That's fantastic.
yeah.
That's excellent. Um, okay. So how can you help others spread gratitude within your community?
I think honestly focusing on gratitude for your own um, luck or boons or, the joys in your life helps you to, as long as you're not obnoxious about it
Right.
towards other people,
Yeah.
but I do think that that helps. It's contagious almost,
Yeah.
or it can be. I'm sure there are people that are resistant to it. Probably my teenager is one of those people.
Oh.
But um otherwise, like I mean, just involving yourself in your community, I think,
Yeah.
versus kind of, not reaching out. I mean, I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
And so it's tough for me sometimes to be like, get out there, go do a thing, talk to some people. Um, but I think that that's really what we need to do in order to kind of spread gratitude and spread joy, whether that's you're volunteering or you're just organizing some friends or, like I think just making and keeping those connections is probably like super important. But you have to start with yourself. So I was not always the most grateful person. When I started struggling with my anxiety, I went to therapy, which I think everybody should go to therapy at some point in their lives. You don't
Yeah.
have to be in therapy forever, but um, even as a person who is like self-reflective, it's important to have someone else reflecting as well. And so, I came to realize that I was actually a pretty negative person. Not that I wasn't grateful and not that I took things for granted, but everything was always, I was very self-deprecating and everything was, which is the Gen X thing. We're all pretty self-deprecating, right? But I was a little harsher, I think. And so just taking that time to spend on yourself to realize that, you do have things to be grateful for, even if your life super sucks right now.
Yeah.
Um, even when you're like, I have a chronic back condition, and I think the last time it was super bad was 2016. So I'm on a good streak. But at the time, I remember like it sucked. I could barely move. I was in a lot of pain, and have a friend who came over every day, twice a day, to let my dog out
Yeah.
so she could pee because I couldn't even do that, and bring me some food, and I had family that would stop in, and so everybody has something, I think, positive that they can be grateful for,
Yeah.
and it's just a matter of noticing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. And I look
I
forward to
enjoyed our
having
chat.
another opportunity to talk to you again.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Keely. You have a lovely day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the 3 Moon 3 Souls podcast.